And we're live.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting film adventure. This is Delusions of Grandeur, and we are celebrating my birthday month by two choices that I decided to go with. One is a somber drama from 1980, and it is called Windwalker. Um, it stars Trevor Howard in the title role, and it is directed by none other than Keith Merrill, with writers Ray Goldrup and Blaine Jorgensen as the writer of the original novel that this is based on. Originally, my mom had bought this movie on VHS, and it was part of the Feature Films for Family group of films. It didn't make it to DVD in their distribution under Feature Films, but it was under their VHS catalog. But let me see what IMDb says about the film. In 1797, Utah, an aged Cheyenne patriarch helps his kin to fight off a raiding party of rival Crow warriors, and he tells his grandchildren the story of their family. So, going into first impressions, honestly, this is like a serious film for me. If I were to say a serious film, or have, because honestly, I like a lot of comedy or whatnot, but let's go into Tammy. What were your first impressions of this film?
Well, I I don't remember seeing this evidently the first time with David, but so to me this was the first time. Um, I really liked it. I thought, I liked the story, and I liked how the grandfather who was telling the story related with the grandchildren and was giving them like kind of a history of their family, even though it wasn't all nice. And then um, how the whole family unit actually worked together. So, there was definitely some sad parts and some, drama and everything. So, but overall, I thought it was, a good movie.
Okay, is that the end of your first impression then?
Um, yeah.
Okay, heading over to you, Jake. Was this a first time watch for you?
I think you mean Kroll. Jake's not here yet.
Crow. Was this a first time watch for you?
I was wondering. I'm like, Jake, I thought I wasn't here yet.
Hey, listen, Jake. We don't need an ear lip, okay?
On to something, okay? Yes, it was the first time watch. It was alright. I'm not big into drama, so unless there's vampires or we kind of had a zombie, but he wasn't eating any brains, so it wasn't as fun. The fight scenes were kind of lameish. I didn't think they were all that great, especially for 81. But it was an okay movie. I didn't hate it or anything, and I did get into it a little bit. I wanted to like the fight scenes because I like fight scenes, but yeah, I don't know. It was just I don't know how to describe it. It just didn't feel right.
They're not really fantastical.
Yeah.
In terms of like Native American combat, it's pretty accurate, but that doesn't necessarily translate to like
Right.
whoa,
Fun, entertaining. Yeah, just like why I hate professional wrestling Why I love professional wrestling and hate amateur wrestling. Amateur wrestling is boring.
Speaking of, though, there was a dope part where those dudes hit each other with like a double clothesline. That was
Oh yeah,
probably one of the best moments.
That was cool. I do admit. So there
Looked
was
like
a
it
few.
fucking hurt, dude.
There was a few moments. That was fun. But yeah, I mean, it was enjoyable for the most part. Like I said, I mean, it wasn't great, but wasn't horrible.
Okay. Heading over to Forrest, I guess. Was this a first time watch for you?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. So I think it was. I mean, for the most part, I think it was a very well. It was a good movie. Good script. Very good cinematography. And also I like and also because you have to consider when this movie came out, like at that point, most Native Americans in movies were very one-dimensional characters who were just basically cannon fodder for John Wayne, or just cowboys and westerns. So this I have to give it credit for it was one of the at the time it was made. It was one of the few movies that had a very nuanced, more positive take on Native people, and for doing also for doing the movie apart from the opening, apart from some of the narration, like all the dialogue is spoken in native language, in Cheyenne. It's spoken in the native languages, Cheyenne and Crow. Although at the same time, like, it is a little problematic only because the title protagonist, like both the young version and old version of him, are both played by white guys, which that would not which I mean which I think if this movie were made now, you'd have to cast there, or at least there would be a lot more pressure to cast native actors. But yeah, it's for me, it's a little problematic, but at the same time, it's very well done, and I think especially for the time it came out, I think for the time it came out, it was a very respectable portrayal of Native Americans.
Agreed.
And also I did like that, and because I used to live in Utah too, so when this was made, so it was kind of interesting to see. For me, it was interesting to see like the landscapes on film. I guess to see Utah, see Utah in film.
Entirely too much.
Yeah. But I would say the land. Yeah, I really like the back. The scenery was really well shot.
Okay. Is that the end of your first impression then?
So I think so. I mean, overall, it's again slightly a little problematic, but still overall a good movie.
Okay. Heading over to you, Mo. Was this a first time watch for you?
Yeah, this is definitely a first watch for me. I'd never even heard of this movie, I don't think. I could see if I saw it when I was younger, it would be one that I would have huge nostalgia for, though. It's just got all those ingredients. Great soundtrack, awesome imagery, plenty of action, for the context of the story. Zombie grandpa. I think that the movie loses me a little bit about 2/3 of the way through it, because it's just like, what's going on here with the zombie grandpa, and what it's supposed to be like coming full circle and him helping his grandkids or something. I got a little lost towards the end, I guess is what I would say, but the movie's well done enough that I didn't mind. I was still enjoying just looking at it, so probably one that I could see picking up if it was on DVD or Blu-ray and revisiting. It's got some similarities to stuff like Clan of the Cave Bear, and there is a couple of cast members that it shares in common with that movie.
Yep.
So I thought that was neat. It's got a bit of a Jeremiah Johnson meets Conan type of a thing, filtered through even more heavily like of a native lens, which is neat. I liked the revenge / family feud sort of element of the whole story. That was pretty
Survey
cool.
says.
What's that?
I said survey says. It's a family feud.
Right. I mean, a lot of, the feuds between these tribes aren't fleshed out as well where you have like an actual reason to care about it in some of these movies, but this does a good job with the stolen kid and all that and the murdered wife of like giving you a reason to give a shit. So that's, point in its favor for sure.
Well, I think
really though, mainly the thing that I
horses from
loved
that guy
about
in
it
the first
was
place?
just the majestic Utah scenery with like some of the cinematography and the score are really the highlights of the movie for me. And those dudes being played by white guys, that was pretty funny.
Didn't he steal the horses from that guy in the first place?
Yeah, they stole some horses and then they came through and like killed his wife and stole the kid, and then he tried to get the kid back and
I
failed
know
pretty
about
miserably.
the wife and the kid. I'm just saying that was the guy.
You
he
could
stole the
argue
horses
he
from.
initiated it, yeah.
Yeah.
By stealing all of their
he
fucking
stole
horses.
fucking horses. Dude killed his wife and stole his kid. That's a big difference.
Not in the depend. I mean, that's all a matter of perspective, though, eh? Like to those natives who spent all that time gathering the horses, and yeah, I mean, it might be difference of life and death and moving their tribe or something, So it's hard to say, but yeah, I mean, you could argue that he poked the bear a little bit.
Well, I don't think they meant to kill the wife.
It was pretty sweet how he
was
showed up that other dude, though.
No, he meant to kidnap her.
He meant to kidnap her because he wanted her as his wife, and
Anyway, though, I enjoyed
he
it.
didn't get her as his wife because the guy stole the horses, and he won the marriage.
Yep.
Yeah. Crooked Leg was I mean, no one wants to be married to a dude called Crooked Leg either.
No.
Alrighty.
Good dog trumpet. Now that was better.
Since Jake, you have shown up, why don't you tell us?
Yes.
Was this a first-time watch for you?
Yes. Windwalker is a film that maybe I heard of in passing over the years. It's certainly a possibility. I have no real strong recollection one way or the other. And when I saw it, full disclosure, I was exhausted and somewhat drained yesterday when I watched this. I did fall asleep and have to go back and rewatch the end of the movie. But I did do that. In very many ways, this film probably hit me. Yeah, maybe this was my your revenge for Gosford Park, I guess. In many, many ways, I think I had a similar reaction. Although I will say, overall, I still thought it was a good movie. I liked a lot about it. It is extremely problematic for me that a white dude plays the main character, both as a young and as an adult character. That's extremely problematic, but also, given that this was made at the start of the 80s, the fact that most of the rest of the people involved were indigenous is a point in the movie's favor.
And made it a time
what's that?
It made it a time when there weren't a lot of like very like fleshed out portrayals of Native people on
right.
film.
It does give it a more three-dimensional feel than you would have expected from the time period, and I'll give it that. I have to agree with Mo, though, that the story does get really hard to follow after a while, and that might be partly due to my being so tired, but
I think it's because you're tired and Mo was tired or something.
I think that could be part of it, but it really did get a little muddled. Like, you know, there's all this. I kept thinking to myself, like, okay, this family is basically defenseless. Why don't these people move in for the kill? I mean, I know the movie would be over, but what's to stop them? And I couldn't figure out why this story was continuing, basically. So again, maybe I need to go back and rewatch it fully alert, and maybe I'll pick up on some, or maybe we'll get some stuff in the discussion tonight. But so my first impression was a little puzzled. And again, there were certain things I found problematic that I can't fully get over, but I did love the music. I thought a lot of the location shooting was really nice use of the Utah backdrop. And yes, the idea that they were trying to tell a fleshed out Native American story that wasn't your typical by the books. I think they did a fair job of that, and more power to them. So overall, Dave, it was a classier selection than I had expected.
They jumped the shark
It's
a little
one
bit
from
with
my
Undead
childhood.
Grandpa, man.
It's one from my childhood that is just very weird that my mom just plopped in front of me, and it was like she would. I think we actually had a subscription to feature films for family for a little bit.
I'll admit, this could be one that I could see had I been exposed to it as like just a lazy Sunday afternoon kind of watch with the family. I think I could see that. Yeah.
Very similar to Clan of the Cave Bear in that, it's like a little sort of slice of life movie almost that it doesn't really go anywhere super important, but it's just fun to watch it unfold, and it's got those good vibes to it,
All right.
And yes, the as you can tell from my thumbnail, the young lady that everyone was fighting over, I can see why they were fighting over her.
Heading over to Brandon.
Yeah, she was hot.
Was this a first time watch for you?
Oh yeah, much like a lot of people here, I had never even heard of this film before I watched it. I mean, for the most part, yeah.
Fascinating.
I agree that there are problematic aspects, but I can usually set that aside. To me, it's not much different than setting aside anybody who would cast for blind casting these days, except it's a little bit more, it's a little bit sadder when you've got some actual Native American actors in it, where you could have had a lead Native American actor, which would have been nice. But with that being said, of course, when I see this poster, I keep thinking, Khan.
Yeah. Put those brain worms in those damn kids.
But I think it's one. If I'd seen it as a child, I would have gotten into it a lot more and held some nostalgia for it, because I saw stuff like that. I mean, old school films. I think this would have gone right along with Where the Red Fern Grows and a couple others that I would have watched as a child. So, I think that's a good thing there. Much like I think what's been said already, I kind of got lost halfway through when he kind of like rose from the dead, sort of. And I'm just like, how do we get from A to B? Oh, well, we're there. I just kind of went with it. But okay film. Definitely one I probably should have watched younger to appreciate more today.
Yeah.
I do like how when he came back from the dead, he just ate shit down that hill, though. Because for some reason, they put him to rest up on these like raised little tree fort type things, or lofts, or whatever you want to call it. It's a hell of a way to wake up when you come back to the world.
It's a ceremonial thing that indigenous people would do for their dead. They would raise them up on stilts so that they could be raised to the heavens. And I guess at this point, they were supposed to quote unquote windwalk their way to their connected spirits that are up in the great sky.
I like to think really it's just that they know they're going to come back, so they put them on the raised platform in the hopes that when they rise from the grave, they'll fall and like snap their neck again and just be dead again.
Yeah, you can't have them
like
you can't have those zombies walking around, man.
No one needs a zombie grandpa. He just complicates things.
But in any case, let's get into the plot. So the main plot, I look at this in like 2 acts, basically.
Dave,
Um,
did you give your first impression?
Yeah, he hit us with
Okay,
those, I think,
okay,
before we dove into the group.
yeah, I kind of
okay.
hit it a little bit before.
And yes, I gave mine too. Thank you, Jake.
And I enjoy this movie every time I watch it. Not because I have a lot of nostalgia for this movie, so I think that's why I put it forward. It's not my normal put forward a movie. It's like one that I would save for a rainy day,
Yeah.
but I figured I would put this out there because it is a sentimental one for me, and I can't explain it, but I connect to it in some way, shape, or form. But that being said, the plot is basically done in like 2 acts. I feel because you've got Trevor Howard, who is playing this old and dying patriarch of this tribe of Cheyenne people. And he is retelling his story to his grandchildren on his deathbed, basically. They are pretty much waiting for him to die, actually. And his story is an interesting one because, you know, he even admits that he was young and foolhardy at the time, and he was in love with this other young Indian squaw, and he didn't. I don't think he fully realized that there were other people trying to vie for her intentions by showing what they could get for, because indigenous people would trade things for their property, and so this young lady, she just happened to be caught between two different men who were wanting her for a wife. One already had a wife, and the other was just completely in love with her. And that was this young Windwalker. And we don't really get his name or anything, just that he he is a man. But he goes to the land of the crows and steals a bunch of horses, and basically outwits the other guy, a guy, by having so much to give.
Yeah, I think he offered like a horse and some skins or some shit, or like a couple horses and a skin. And he's like, that's already more than she's worth. And then he just shows up with like a herd of fucking horses.
It was 8 skins.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And he definitely knew that he was intentionally stealing the horses to show that guy up, because he says in the narration that, you know, my love for Tashina or whatever took me all the way into like the territory of our enemy crow where they keep their horses or whatever. So he acknowledges that he was like, yeah, I'm gonna go steal all these horses and show up that crooked leg motherfucker. It's pretty epic.
And he does for a time with his well, of course, the father did give him his daughter in marriage, and well, what they considered marriage, and for a time, it seemed like they were happy.
Oh yeah, several years. Those kids grow up quite a bit, and you know, they have 2 kids, and then they grow to what it look like they're about 4 or 5, something like that.
I would say like 2 to 3, maybe 2 to 3 years old, maybe. at the time.
Oh, right,
I-
at the time
I
when they're
picked it up
kidnapped. And then it takes him
Oh,
a
yeah.
couple, he says, many seasons it takes him to find the kid again. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's a moment where okay, it I look at it as this: they were happily in love, and they had several moments of parent relapse. Because later we find out that one of the kids was in fact like mauled by a bear, but that's not until like later. But here they decide to have a romantic interlude where they're swimming in a lake, and unbeknownst to them, the crow and Crooked Leg, evidently one of the crow that's evidently called Evil Eye, because he's got like a patch over his like either left or right eye. I don't entirely remember, but I think it was his
Left eye.
his
pretty
left.
sure.
But they're that evil-eyed dude is fairly young, and Crooked Leg is slightly old, and he's still angry because of the whole he got the wife over him, and
Well, and he got like banished, I guess, or he self-banished himself, it sounded like, because he's like, you shamed me. I can't be part of the Cheyenne anymore. And then he's like, I'm leaving, but we're enemies forever.
Yeah.
I like how he stops by just to tell him that.
Yeah. I was
Fuck
like,
you. We're
I was
enemies
like,
for
what does
life, but
that
I'm
mean?
leaving right now.
and then I thought it was like a Sheldon saying, yeah, my enemy for life type thing, and then oh no, they fucking really got revenge.
Yeah, turns out he was serious.
Yeah.
well, and they end up fighting, and once Evil Eye realizes that that shit's going sour, he decides to go over and steal one of the kids, and off he goes. And then we get him running after him, and then of course we then get the narrations saying that he followed him for several seasons. Because
His
every
wife
time
dies from
the
a
brain,
mild concussion.
yeah,
She
which
looked
is
fine
sad.
beforehand, but I guess she's dead, you know.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
and then you get
His
that little
husband's
sad
usually so
moment.
young.
You get that little sad moment where the child is crying, and he picks her up and grieves for a moment, but he then goes off in search of his other son, and for I guess several seasons, until he comes across the crow encamped, and his kid is like looks like he's like 12 years old or something like that.
I mean, at least a couple years older, you know, maybe 7 or 8. Like, it clearly looks like we're meant to feel like it's been 2 or 3 years or something, at least, that he's been on the road, like tracking.
Yeah, and he ends up setting the encampment on fire and steals his kid to the side for a moment.
It was a great
but
job
then-
when he did it.
Almost, yeah, it was almost the perfect plan, but then he just runs out there like a clumsy fuck in the middle of all of it and kind of just immediately gets spotted. But it was he had a good idea. On paper, it should have worked.
Yeah, he had a great idea. He just fucked it up at the end.
But he does, in fact, have a moment with his kid. He gives him this necklace that his wife gave him, and tells him he is Cheyenne. You know,
Yeah.
He's his father.
and that but then he brawls with another crow dude and disappears down the creek.
Yeah,
And
brawl
the kid
is a strong word. They exchange a couple of blows. He falls into a river, apparently gets washed a little ways upstream, and he's like, and then
Yeah.
I gave up. I never saw my son again. And it's just
And
really, after all that.
That's one thing that I'm gonna have to say about this one. And maybe I'm spoiled because I just watched The Kingsman a couple days ago or whatever. But the fight choreography was shit in this movie. It really none of the blows looked like they had any weight behind them. most of the fighting was just people kind of roughhousing for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, it looked like brothers fighting.
Yeah,
I would tend to disagree a little bit. It felt very, primal and probably accurate to how people might actually fight in
I
those
guess.
conditions. It's not Hollywood fighting, though.
No, it wasn't Hollywood fighting.
The closest you get is that part, like later on when it's his son all grown up and he goes fucking just barreling at that crow dude and they like double clothesline each other, and that part's
there were
pretty
a couple
Hollywood,
of moments.
But other than that,
But-
it's just kind of.
But Mo, you did mention
a high elbow off the tree or something.
you did mention Mo the part, like, for example, like when the wife dies, it really didn't hurt. Like, it didn't look like it was that big of a deal. It
No,
just
Shouldn't have been
look-
that serious.
It didn't look like
Yeah.
she should have died from it.
I guess they let her
No.
fall asleep, because they always say
guess.
not to let them fall asleep.
It looked like
One
just
of the
a
different
glancing blow of some sort as he was
Right.
just going by, and then because it didn't even look like she was the target. I didn't even know whether the target was
Right.
actually her or the child for
Yeah.
a while because
Well-
they didn't look like they were ready to go with one or the
No,
other.
she was not, in fact, originally the target. In fact, he alerted her that something was up, and she went and fought with Crooked Leg, and he just kind of like shook her off, and she fell and hit her head. He didn't even mean for that to happen, but it did, and then them two fought, and then when
She
it
should
was
have been
very
impaled
sloppy.
on something or something. That would have been. It would have had more weight to it. She just gets like a bump on the head, and then she's like, "I die now," and she's just fucking
yeah,
dead.
but you got to remember.
I like to
this
think
is
she
done
woke up
for
off
Christian
camera later in
audience.
the movie.
You got to remember this is being done for a Christian audience, so
Yeah.
I mean, they had a couple near simulated rapey moments. I don't know. I mean, I feel like historical violence is okay for those Christian folks. They tend to do it.
I was gonna say, usually it's the sex that, if you're talking about a historic Christian audience, usually violence is fine. It's usually the sex that's
Yeah.
let down on. No implication that anything like they would get married, they would live in separate tents, and somehow have the children, and then there'd be a lot of bloody fights.
I do have to
Right.
mention that when she did have the children, they did do that old-fashioned, okay, let's stand her up and birth her from the standing position. That's what.
Well, they did do that. In fairness, they did that after what looked like giving the other way the old college try. But but that, I guess that does show sort of the prudish nature of the audience, I guess, with the whole I'm gonna have to, maybe, and then they skip straight to the birth, and you focus more on him rather than anything else, which the way they did it, it was amusing and it worked, and but I can definitely see, if you're saying this was intended for a Christian type audience, I could definitely see that explaining why they did that whole
I suppose,
sequence the way they did.
See, I didn't know that watching
yeah.
it, so I just assumed since it was his story, it was
Right.
kind of from his perspective, and I actually
Yeah,
thought they
in
did
fact,
a pretty
on the
good
back
job of like portraying him being sort of impatient, but then concerned, but then relieved when he heard that the baby was out and like alive.
Right.
Yeah, on the back of every like VHS of feature films for family, you'd have like a series of questions and some prayer moment that your prospective parent would like question the children afterwards, and it was kind of like a Sunday. It was kind of like a Sunday school moment,
Here's
I
some
think-
dry ass
That's
movie,
what
and now we're
feature
gonna
films
quiz you
for family
afterwards.
was more geared
Fucking A.
towards. So
I think we did get a few of those too, but we didn't usually do the whole question and answer after.
Oh, funny, because I had some friends back west who I know someone back west who worked for them. They're actually run by Mormons.
Yeah, the whole Utah thing is making a lot more sense now that we're discussing this.
But in any case, shortly after that moment where he tells his son that Cheyenne that he is Cheyenne, and he disappears down the creek is where he says, "Oh, I never saw him again." A moment, and then of course he dies. The children go and tell their mother, and then they go and bury him. Well, wrap him in some furs up top a canopy like thingy on stilts, and
Yeah, they basically put his ass up a deer stand and just leave him there.
But anyways, the family is kind of led by the matriarch's other son, who was now a grown adult man, and they are set upon by the crow, the same crow that had kidnapped the other son. Except they do not know that he is part of their party. Crow is back. But in any case,
Caca.
Thanks.
So once they are set upon, I believe, the one son has a fight with, I believe it's Evil Eye that he has a fight with.
I believe so, yeah.
And he is in fact then mortally wounded, but also the kids go into hiding. I do have to mention that Billy Drago is one of the actors in here. He is
I forgot about that.
He is the Crow Scout. He's the one that wants the females of the party.
Is that the dude that the creepy looking motherfucker looks like a character from Ed, Edd and Eddie?
I should have. I saw Billy Drago's name in the.
Oh, Jake, you there?
Oh, I thought that was me.
Oh, we lost him for a moment.
Yeah, I thought I kicked myself out again. I'm like, oh shit, did I do it again?
I will say that his son did a lot better job of successfully protecting his family than his father did, like in the previous go around with the crow. He was kind of a badass. It's just unfortunately he was the only one, so he ends up pretty jacked up by the end of the whole exchange. And
their weapon of choice
without him, you know?
Their weapon of choice is not a tomahawk. It's like this double-sided drum on the end of a stick, you know.
What happened?
We were wondering that.
We were wondering the same thing.
I was just saying, like Billy Drago. I saw his name in the cast and then promptly forgot about it, and I don't know why. But now that you see him, you expect him to be some creepy, violent asshole. That's pretty much his MO.
Right.
He's also very fairly young in here, so you almost don't like recognize him. It's
I don't recognize him. Who is he?
He's been in quite a lot of movies. He was in From Dusk Till Dawn. I know that he has definitely played in a lot of films over time.
Didn't he star in a couple of? Wasn't he in a couple of the major, like Chuck Norris? Oh, right, he played John Bly in Briscoe County Jr. That's what I knew him from.
Yeah, he's like kind of one of those dudes like what Danny Trejo used to be, I guess, where he's had a good long history of stock henchman roles and tough guys.
Yeah, this was his first movie credit, according to IMDb. He had a couple of TV credits before, but
I mean, he's got that old saddlebag face too. I know he's in like Tremors 4, I want to say.
Yeah, he was in The Untouchables.
Yep, it was also part of the Bears film debut.
Or excuse me, it might be Tremors 5, the one where they're in the Wild West.
Wild West.
Obviously, aren't all
Yeah.
the Tremors movies in the Wild West?
Well,
He was in Pale Rider with Clint Eastwood.
he plays Papa Jupe in the remake of Hills Have Eyes, but you wouldn't know it because of the makeup.
He
and
was
shit.
Snow in the movie Vamp.
Yeah. He's in Children of the Corn Genesis, which I will get the courage up to watch one of these days, or I'll just get drunk enough. I don't know which will come first.
It's one I own, but I've never seen
Okay, this was the one I was trying to think of. Delta Force 2, The Colombian Connection.
There you
Oh,
go.
I've seen that.
I knew he was in one of those Chuck Norris movies.
I've seen that one.
Yeah, not Delta Farce.
He
Yeah,
was in Cyborg 2, Glass Shadow.
Oh, good God! He's got a sterling.
Man,
set
he's
of
got some
movies behind him.
distinguished. He's had a distinguished career.
But in
Hey,
any,
Briscoe
yeah,
County Jr. was one of the best shows on TV.
It really
so there.
is. Yeah, I would agree. Cultural milestone.
But in any case, basically what happens is they crawl back to be with together and lick their wounds and end up going back to their original teepee that they started out from. And it's at this moment where it gets kind of funky.
It's at this moment where the people making the movie absolutely did not know what to do with it next.
Real quick though, Billy Drago is part Native American. Apparently, he is of Native American and Romani. He's Native American and Romani in heritage. So, interesting combo.
Yeah, I mean, but it's just, you always got to wonder. This hardcore feels like one of those movies that would be super popular with middle-aged women that are like, I'm 1/18th Cherokee princess and I make dream catchers as a hobby. So is he really, or is he is that a thing he can say,
Well, apparently his father is Native American. That's what it said on IMDb. It said nothing about a tiny fraction. It said...
There we go.
Yeah.
That's legit, it sounds
There you go.
So
I read it on the internet.
James Raymar, though, I don't know about that dude being...
No, he's definitely not. He's like Russian and British or something like that.
No,
Right.
but Trevor Howard was in quite a lot of westerns from the 40s and 50s and stuff. So I guess he's kind of a go-to actor in that retrospect.
Well, and to be fair, he pretty much looked white, right? You could just tell it was an old white man in native clothes. But James Raymar, they went to town with the spray tan on that dude.
Oh yeah,
they browned him up good, and it was a little uncomfortable at bits. There was that second time he whooped, and I was like, "Oh, settle down. Let's dial that back a notch."
Although Tammy, you wanted to know who the actor was for young Windwalker. Why?
Oh, James Remar.
Why do you
I think she thought he was hot.
Oh, he was a good-looking man, really, even into his older age.
Yes, I thought he was
I feel
hot,
like
just
my
like
mom
you guys
saw us
think
watching
that
Dexter once and
squat
said
is
he was
hot.
handsome on there.
Yeah, I mean Dexter. Yeah, I mean say Dexter, The Warriors, Sex and the City, Black Lightning,
Raiden in Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Yep.
The Quest, everyone forgets about that one, where he plays Maxie, the old boxer dude. So he's got a sweet mustache and he engages in some good fisticuffs. It's fucking sweet, dude.
The Quest is an awesome film.
Yeah, plus he filmed a few scenes as Hicks in Aliens before he got replaced by Michael Biehn.
But in any case, it's at this moment that we have the grandfather wake up and have his narration with, "Grandfather, is this a joke?
Rise from your grave," and then the Altered Beast soundtrack just starts. It's ridiculous. He falls
Rise, Lazarus, rise. No, just kidding.
I feel like, dude, they did just kind of, they're
game.
Unless that's in the book, I feel like if it is in the book, it was probably portrayed a lot better than what we got in the movie. It feels like they jumped the shark a little, and they're just like, oh, well, we don't really know what to do here, so those Christians will dig a good old-fashioned resurrection.
I just thought he wasn't dead yet.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah,
I like
that was
idea
my
of him
thought
just being up there
originally.
the whole time.
I'm not dead yet.
Yeah, my thought is that they
I
jumped the
think I'll
gun.
go
They
for
thought
a
he was
walk.
dead.
Like, boy, I was like,
He
boys,
just takes
having
an
a
old
bad
man
day.
nap and they fucking
gets
do the whole
left-
burial ceremony.
Right.
I was
They
like,
got
boys, he having
better.
a bad day. He gets left for dead. Then some wolves chase him. He falls down a fucking hole. It's a fucking bear cave. Like,
Yeah, he has a lot happen to him.
Yeah, he's not having
a good day.
For coming out of a death nap, you know.
Yeah, it's
I
it's
mean-
pretty
Oh, yeah.
comical actually. Like the
See,
series.
my impression
Right.
was.
I mean, he gets run to a cliff by wolves, and you get some gnarly wolves there, you know, and then he falls.
Oh yeah.
He
falls into a bear
wake-
cave.
But see,
wakes
honestly,
up.
I think you're on to something with him being alive the whole time. I think he was just doing like the uncle from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate
Yeah.
Factory, where he was faking like he was bedridden, but he
He
was
was
really just
doing a-
fine.
He was doing a Bill Murray from Zombieland.
He was pretty spry after he was like resurrected, you know.
Well,
And it's
yeah.
like,
he
where
was-
was all
he was
that
just-
energy
He was
earlier,
just
bro?
like, it's time to go. It's time to see my wife. I'm like done, you know. Like he just wanted to go. He wanted to see his wife.
You see, my impression was very different. I thought, like, well, they were like, well, we've got to keep moving. We can't let this old man keep us nailed down here. So they just left him for dead. It's like, well, we'll put him up high so the wolves don't eat him, and best luck. And
There you
then
go.
done. That was my thought of what happened.
String him up like a bear sack, just up out of the way.
Yeah, just in case if he wants to live, he gets a fighting chance. You know?
Yeah,
The grandkids are like, he's
Yeah.
just sleeping, Papa, and the dad's like, no, trust me.
I
he's
had
dead."
a hard time believing that spear actually could effectively kill a bear in my mind.
Oh, I agree. I'm
You'd
sitting
be
there like, how long did he
surprised.
kill that bear?
They were actually legitimately doing that stuff for many
Yeah, but he wasn't
generations, you know.
He wasn't that young.
It doesn't matter if you got a good weighted spear and you hit it with a kill shot.
Well,
in the right
in any
spot, you can
case,
put
the
down
bear
a bear.
fell on the spear, and he supposedly like took only a certain amount of meat, which I guarantee to you, I would have taken a hell of a lot more meat than what he.
Well,
was
yeah, but
carrying.
he had to carry it too. Remember?
True.
I'd have slept inside it and just slowly eaten it from the inside until I was just wearing the skin, and then you just show up like and scare the shit out of those crows.
One thing you got to bear in mind that the whole reason why
Bear
the
in
Crow
mind.
Party, I get it, but is that the Crow Party, the reason why they were after them to begin with was because of this white horse, that evidently was the Cheyenne leader, the old man's horse. He wanted it because it's part of the whole "I hate you, your clan" thing.
And it was a sweet horse, so they were basically doing like Gone in 60 Seconds, but Native American style, you know.
Well, it was
a
kind of
nice
interesting because the horse, you kept seeing it like come from this direction. It came from another direction. It was like playing tricks with them.
Oh yeah, it was like you can't get me.
But all of a sudden, you have this great moment where you see the majestic looking white horse like show up to carry the old man, you know, on his way, and honestly, I do think that the other cast members they gave that look of shock a run for their money because they really were like awed or shocked that he was there, and I like
relax,
the
I'm
fact
not
that
a
he was
ghost.
like, relax, I'm not a ghost. I was called back.
That's just what a ghost would
what
say.
did the grandkids say? Grandfather, you didn't like your walk or something like that? I
You can't
That's-
trust them
that's-
shifty ghosts.
said something. It was funny.
But in any case, now that Grandpa's back, apparently he's part medicine man, so he starts preparing some kind of like salve or something like that for his son, and I guess next
Okay,
morning,
he gives food too.
yep, he gives them food, in which he got from the bear and whatnot, and then I guess there's some daylight left to take his grandchildren out and set some traps and shit. And
Yeah.
I guess we see them chopping around at a lake and stuff. And I guess the crow comes and they see smoke rising from the teepee, so they think that they're still there because there's a horse
Oh, I knew
still
they
attached
weren't there.
to the thing.
That horse is left there for to trick them.
I don't know why. Whenever you say the crow, I just imagine Brandon Lee coming down and kicking their ass.
Hell yeah. Can't rain
Oh,
all
they
the time.
wouldn't
He's just
escape
kicking
from
motherfuckers.
They won't escape from Brandon Lee, you know. There's no escaping that.
Oh, you got to think that all these different indigenous people had different names for their tribe. There was the Sioux, there was the Cheyenne,
Yeah,
there was
I don't even think the crow were actually
Chippewa.
called the crow. That's just what everyone else called the crow.
Right. I was gonna say it doesn't
Uh,
sound like a real Indian name. Like Cheyenne is real and Sioux is real and Miles Standish is real, you know.
And even a lot of those people don't call themselves that, you know, like you hear them actually talk about themselves and there's like different words. I only learned that recently from watching Reservoir Dogs and stuff. But the Crow are also usually the bad guys in these sort of Native American films. And really, they were just horse thieves. You know, they were pretty ruthless, but most of these tribes were pretty ruthless to each other, just in different ways, you know. So there's a lot of people, I guess, that are bummed that the Crow gets such a bad rap in
I was
pop
thinking,
culture.
you know, they always talk about the white man, you know, what they did to the Indians. What the fuck did they do to each other? You know?
I mean, arguably we did worse, but you know what I mean. Like,
wouldn't
sometimes
say
you're horse thieves. You know what I mean?
Arguably
Like,
nothing.
I used to
I
have this
wouldn't say
book that was just
we just stole their land and kicked them off of it.
and gave him smallpox and all a slew of other things.
It
You know,
was
rounded
made
him
up
up,
of-
made him learn English.
But when they were trying to kill the women and children, I was thinking of the Iron Maiden song "Run to the Hills."
So wasn't it when they started it off? Wasn't it like they were on some sort of trail of tears? They were actually being forced to change out at the very beginning of this. That they were being relocated.
If that happened, I don't remember it.
Yeah, I never heard that.
No, not sure. All I know is that it's
The only white motherfuckers in this were the spray tanned ones, dude. I didn't see anyone force them on any trails, you know.
I'd have to rewatch the DVD opening to get the idea.
I don't remember that either.
No, it was just the grandfather telling his story, and then he died and came back, and he realized he had to be back with his family for some reason. He just didn't know what. And
okay, I gotta say something before we get too far. Okay, now when the grandson said grandfather was a great warrior, my immediate thought was warriors do not make one great. Yoda, Empire Strikes Back.
True. I mean,
okay,
I think that's a broader term for natives, you know.
Oh, I know.
Like
As soon as they said great warrior, that popped in my head, you know.
Because he had some like trapping skills and all the medicinal stuff you would need to. He gave those kids a solid start on life while he was being zombie grandpa, you know.
Oh yeah, he did good.
Well, and the traps that they set for them did work. In their favor.
Yeah, they got their brother.
They ultimately moved to this like small cave encampment that seemed to be not far from where they were to begin with, which looked like it might have been like a secondary home for them. Like if they were to like have to like hide from certain other peoples.
I took the cave as that was the cave that the grandfather fell into.
That's what I thought it was too, but no, because they walked into.
Then he
they walked
investigated
into
it
so.
after he killed the bear, and found out the rest of the cave, and that he took them there to protect them.
But he walked into it, so I don't think it was the same.
Well, And we also have the moment where the other brother that we don't know is the other brother at the moment, although we probably know that he is the other brother at this point in time.
I didn't know he was a brother yet.
But he comes by, sees the women and children, and he just lets them go.
Yeah.
But then he also thinks that this whole like search for the horse and
He said it was unhonorable.
is unhonorable, and he finally had enough of it, and he was like, "Fuck it, I'm just
he
going to
looks
leave." He said,
badass too. Best war paint in the movie, I think, on that dude.
Yeah.
Like he had a great look.
And they're basically calling him a pussy because he doesn't want to kill an injured warrior and a bunch of women and kids. It's like, what? And they're talking about, honor and stuff. I'm like, how is there honor in killing women and kids and a fucking crippled guy? I mean, it was stupid. I was like, really? The only one that
well,
had.
in any case, he basically has kind of a little fit with them, and then Evil Eye just tells him, "Fine, go, leave, see what I care," and he basically goes off, and he runs smack dab into one of their traps. And at first, one I think it's the brother's wife. She tries to club him to death, and Grandpa was like, "No, just tie him up and bring him along." So he's brought back to the cave. He's seeing Grandpa talk to the children and calling them Cheyenne while he tells them, it's technically not the time for you young people to become warriors, but we unfortunately you're all I got, so he paints them up like warriors and sends them off on their way, and at this moment is when the Crow Scout comes for his woman that he wants, and before
don't forget the little
before
girl
he was told
the uncle.
Well, before he was told, hey, she'll kill you, right?
Right. I'd rather die in a Cheyenne woman's bed than under horse hooks.
Yep. So he comes down into the cave and he basically tussles with her. She grabs a rock and bashes his head in basically. And meanwhile, I do like this moment. There's a little kid, one of the little girls. She's eating some meat and she's sharing it with the unknown brother. It's kind of a cute moment for me. For
she didn't buy sausage piece for him.
Yep. And then when Grandpa comes back, he basically starts to say that he is Cheyenne. He is Cheyenne over and over again, and that's when he starts to take notice, and he takes his face paint off, and he looks up to the heavens, is like, "Grandfather, you've given me my son back."
That's why you sent me back. But also, he had seen the necklace too.
Yep.
That his adopted father had been wearing. So he remembered the necklace, and he saw that, and he was saying, "You're Cheyenne," and it made him trigger his memory of being told that he was Cheyenne. So yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, they weren't little enough that they wouldn't have any memory of that stuff, right?
Yeah, because she was like 7 or 8, so yeah.
I guess my issue with the movie is as funny as it is to say zombie grandpa, it's just wholly unnecessary. There was no reason for the old dude to die and come back, and I
Well,
mean,
like
it
I
just
said,
adds
I don't
like
think
a
he
hokey
died, so-
element to it that takes a little bit away from it for me. But I like how it comes full circle around, and they're sort of reunited and under
I don't
similar
know.
circumstances. You know, I mean, it's a
I-
well thought out movie, I think, other than where they just briefly jumped the
I
shark
kind of
with
like the
undead
fact
grandpa.
that he was supposed to be dead and was brought back because
I
he
did
had
too.
unfinished business.
He should have had some sweet zombie powers then. He should have been like jumping on those crows like wow.
I still
eating
like
them or something.
I still like the
Wait,
thought
think
that they
his
just
eyes
left him
zombie?
behind because he's like, "Hey, you're slowing us down."
Wait, think
Bye.
it's zombie ammo?
He did point out that he was being a burden to his family, so maybe. What's that, Crow?
That's what do you think is zombie?
Something. I mean, like he should have had some cool powers then if he was going to be undead.
Well, after reviewing the film real quickly, they were fleeing a disease that was hitting a lot of their tribe in the north, so that was why they were traveling. So it could be that they were worried he had that disease, and they left him behind.
It could be those zombie blankets, man. They fucking. I don't know. That's really my only gripe to it, and I think it, but pretty much round this portion of the movie was where I was checking out a little bit. I mean, I remember everything we've talked about thus far, but I don't know. It dulled my interest in it, I guess, a little bit. That they added in what seemed to be a very pointless supernatural element to it.
I think that's what made the movie fun.
Yeah,
that would have been really
I
fun.
agree.
I thought it was fine all around. So I mean, I didn't really need zombie grandpa in there.
I would have been really bored.
He could have done all the same things without fucking coming back from the dead.
I think they could have. I think they could have done everything as a flashback at the end of it all, and then like had the. You could have had both brothers come in and it's like, see, and this is how I got your brother back, even though I was a much older man, and these things.
There you go.
Well, in any case, we all knew that this was going to happen. Grandpa went out to face evil eye, and lo and behold, the now newly found brother comes out with the white stallion and fights in his stead, and all is well with the world. At the end of the thing.
Don't
I do
forget
like
that gnarly clothesline, double clothesline.
That was a good moment. And then it all zooms out, and we find out that this has been happening in a tiny, tiny cupboard under the bed of a suburban white kid. And that's the end of the movie.
Eating in the cupboard.
The end of the movie is basically Grandpa returning to
Return to the grave.
being able to to wind walk his way to his love that had died long ago.
Old bastard
and
saved
was
his
waiting for
supernatural
him up
powers
in the
till the
great
end of the movie.
spirits of the sky. And I thought that was a cool moment.
Yeah, it's nice.
I knew as soon as he reached her, he was gonna be the young guy. Again, like she looks young and then he was old, and the second she reached
I thought
her,
it was
he
romantic as all hell. I mean, there was this
yeah.
long-lasting love that he wanted to.
He waited all that time long. Yeah, definitely a romantic romance in there.
So, other than that, what did y'all think about the production?
Oh, it's great, man. I mean, it's a super well put together movie. It's got a little bit of that TV movie vibe to it, but slightly better than that. So it doesn't surprise me to learn that it's part of like some, probably Bible Thumper funded label of, straight to video films or whatever. It's clearly got a good budget behind it. It clearly had some really good costuming department stuff going on. The way it's shot, the whole cinematography of the thing that several of us have commented on is pretty obvious as you're watching it too. I mean, all the nuts and bolts and moving parts of it are pretty fantastic.
It's pretty good looking.
Despite my reservations with some casting choices and maybe the decision to have a really underwhelming zombie grandpa, I think that the movie is pretty fucking well done, dude. 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, I agree with the cinematology. I mean, cinematography.
Cinematology.
Yeah.
It's a new religion that we're gonna start.
Cinematography. Shut up. I didn't know it was Utah, but 'cause I've never been there. But it looked gorgeous. I
lived
like the
there.
way it looked. The horses and everything. The people all looked decent. I mean, I didn't really care that there was a white actor, but
It's
you know.
just odd. I think that is something we should
Well, it is
expand on a little bit,
it
because I
is
think the
odd.
movie was done with the best intentions and it's done very tastefully. It's not like it's like caricatures of these people or
But at
anything
least
like
they
that.
didn't pick somebody everybody knew. Like when they did the Chun-Li movie, they picked fucking Lana Lang to play
I
Chun-Li.
mean, you could argue that the
that was
dudes that
fucking
they
retarded.
chose to play our white natives were probably chosen because they were bigger names or they were bigger prospective names maybe at the
Although
time
Kristen-
than they are to us now.
Although
I
Kristen
know
Krug is
that,
actually
yeah.
half Chinese, so
Who's that now?
I said because he mentioned Chun Li, and I was just pointing out that Kristen Krug is half Chinese. So
Oh, okay, cool. I still have not seen those.
So they
but,
didn't have all Asian actresses then?
I mean, she was half Chinese, so I mean that's
Yeah,
arguably
she doesn't look Chinese at all.
some of them don't. But I mean, these dudes clearly weren't
Poor Gaston.
half native, But I think James Raymar, what was this, like early '80s? So he was probably still a bigger name because of shit like the Warriors.
Yeah, he was coming off
I'm
that.
not super familiar with the other dude, but Dave said he was in a bunch of westerns, so they were more relevant names at the time. It feels like they were thrown in there because of that, whereas you easily could have had the grandpa played by like the dude who plays Fishhawk or something, and I mean, you could have had like native actors in there, right? So it's always sort of a bummer when that happens, but I think this is a better example of it than a lot of other stuff. I mean, it's no fucking Genghis Khan with John Wayne, okay?
Yeah,
This
that's true enough.
this is clearly them trying to be very, very
Or-
respectful about
I would
it.
say, or Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Oh dear God.
Or Charlie Chan. Ugh.
Ugh.
But,
yeah, this is done in the best of intentions. So the problematic element of it feels worthy of noting, but not something that really affects my overall opinion of the movie, I guess, because they handled it
could
pretty
have been
carefully,
worse.
So, yeah.
It was okay for its time, and I would rather watch this thing constantly on repeat than last week's film.
Oh, dude, there's no. Like I said last week, I'd rather watch Moray again twice in a row.
Yeah, this
Well,
is a fun one, man. Good choice, Dave. I mean,
evidently, Trevor Howard played in Mutiny on the Bounty from the 60s. Captain William Bligh, and there he played in Around the World in 80 Days. Von Ryan's Express, he played Major Eric Fincham.
So in the family fun pack,
I own that one.
Did it come packaged with a double feature with Sallow? Was that a double feature thing?
And it's widely regarded as the best Christian quiz ever on the back of Sallow. There, that was.
Oh my!
No, this is one though. I'm pretty sure I'm going to show this to my mom. Yeah, I think she would dig it. I think my dad would probably dig it on some level as well. So might end up downloading that digital copy and hooking them up with it.
This is cool. He played the Abbey Faria in the Count of Monte Cristo with Richard Chamberlain.
So far, the only one you mentioned that I own is Von Ryan Express, which is a really good movie. He feels like the type of dude that would be in a bunch of movies my dad and my grandpa were probably fans of,
He was one of the first elders in Superman.
There you go.
Oh, nice.
So,
yeah. I mean, it's not so hard to find on DVD still. I mean, I found it for less than $15 on DVD if it's something that you're looking for. And, it's good to be able to locate a lot of these.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's be real. They still have problems casting. Okay, as much as you want to be for inclusion, they still have issues casting accurate people. Look at the Northmen. Half those motherfuckers aren't of Viking descent in that movie. I'm pretty sure Nicole Kidman is like as English as it gets down to the bone, but here we are, at least they have Bjork in there. And then when it comes to like non-white, even non-white shit, they have a hard time doing it still. They take more care to do it now, but let's be honest.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're going
What
to
was it,
sacrifice some acting ability for some of that too.
What was that one? Gods of something. Gods of Egypt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that one's pretty notorious for white casting most of the thing,
Yeah.
isn't it?
As far as like more recent films, that was probably one of the more recent ones that a lot of the cast was needlessly
Not
white.
Egyptian.
Well, I mean, that's the
And it's
thing
just
is
one of
there
those
are a
things.
lot
Like,
of
there's
them out
no easy answer to it, right? Because you could also like the argument I was just making is the argument a lot of people do, which is that, well, how many A-list native actors do you know? And it's like, well,
But,
not many, but I mean, how many of them are given the opportunity to be A-list
Yeah.
native
Right.
actors? You
That's
know?
And I
the
think
issue.
that's one of the biggest reasons why it's a thing nowadays is so many people have not had opportunities over the years, even though, like there's a couple of them. Graham Greene is that guy. If you need an Indian chief, he's that guy. So everyone knows him. But it's like, but everyone calls him.
Well, I mean, I
Right.
think
And
that's
you just got to roll the dice on it, I think. And
Yeah.
now we're to a point where that's happening more, and we are seeing
Yeah.
better talent. Reservoir Dogs
Oh,
is a
yeah.
great example of a bunch of indigenous talent.
Oh, you're talking about the show Reservation Dogs, right?
Reservation Dogs, excuse me. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to see that.
Oh,
I've
dude,
heard
it's
good
so
things.
good. It's like
Well-
Trailer Park Boys meets
Cool.
the Indian reservation, you know,
and I
but
think-
not mockumentary style.
And I think that's why you see a lot of blind casting these days, is you're giving opportunities to people who in this, I'm sure that there probably were native actors that will audition and are like, screw that, we're going to take this white dude. So, that's the thing. I mean, that's the deal, is that a lot of people who would have been skipped over are finally getting some time to shine, which is
Right. And I mean, even with this, like, I would say I almost have a harder time reconciling that, because you had Fishhawk sitting right there. And you didn't put him in this movie. Like, he should have been in this movie for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I wish I could always remember his name. He plays Fishhawk. He also plays the native dude in Poltergeist 2. He would have been a nice addition to this movie as like the old grandpa fella. And then you just have like, I don't know, Lou Diamond Phillips or somebody like play the young version of him, right? Nowadays, I mean, I guess we're still, like you said, giving people those chances. That dude, who apparently is a pretty well-renowned native actor from Reservation Dogs, who plays the cop, would have been a fun dude in this too. But he's more of a comedic actor, so I don't know how that would have worked out. But he would have been much younger at this point as well. So
I do want to talk about the music, though. The music in this, I thought,
fucking
was
phenomenal. Yeah.
Pretty good.
I do have to say when he was serenading his love, he was playing or supposedly playing a flute.
Oh God, that flute scene!
You could tell that he wasn't really playing.
His fingers aren't even anywhere close to
Yeah.
what they dubbed it with. It is the best.
But the music is in fact done by a guy by the name of Merrill B. Jensen, and he's done the music for quite a few things, including this. Let's see. Let's see. He did Harry's World. He did The Red Fury in 1984. Let's see what else.
It's a very
like after this.
It's a very sort of somber but like bombastic, large score. It reminded me a lot of Conan. I think that's where I was getting most of the Conan vibes. That and just some of the way they shot some of the stuff almost looked like a Frazetta painting where he doing like historically accurate native art or something like that. It works really well with the imagery of like these big, almost, because when you think of it as the perspective of like these tribal people, even those areas that look like a postcard to us now, were like these big, almost primordial fucking environments, these harsh landscapes, and they do a really good job of showcasing that in this. And I think it wouldn't be as as epic as it is without the soundtrack that it has, if that makes sense.
I do remember Jake
Oh,
saying
definitely.
something about liking the music.
Yeah, I thought the music was pretty good at that point.
It's
But,
great. Dare I say it's a soundtrack I wouldn't mind having, like, independently of the film itself. I could see throwing it on and like just listening to it, you know.
Oh yeah. So now I think we're into favorite scenes. So Jake, why don't we start with you? If there was a favorite scene that you could take from this movie, what would it be?
I guess if I had to pick a favorite, it might have been when Crooked Dude was making yet another unsolicited, unwanted offer, but the father's like, yeah, well, you know, I can't really refuse this. This is, damn it. But then the other dude rolls up with all those horses, and I did like that scene. I thought that was pretty well done. I thought that was really put that one guy in his place, and yeah, it's pretty fun.
It was great.
Okay. How about you, Crow? Is there a favorite scene that you could take from this?
When Grandpa woke up and got himself out of the camping thing and rode down the hill and shit.
That's so good.
That was just the best.
It's way funnier than it should be for the movie that it's in.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, I love comedies, so it was that comedic moment in the movie.
It almost makes you
meant to
wish
be,
it was
but-
like an 80s comedy, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Where
it was
it's
good.
all sort of
better.
like native spoofing native culture and folklore. And he's like, I
Uh-huh.
tried to ride the four winds, but I got a bit clumsy, you know.
Sort of like
He just
following,
ends up-
sort of like if you followed the Indian tribe in F Troop for the whole time.
Like
Right.
I you know, it's like the whole time he's like, "Why ain't I dead yet? Why ain't I dead yet?" You know, basically. I mean, he's not saying it that way, but that's basically what he's saying. It's just kind of yeah. I mean, he's like, "Untie me here or take me. Don't just leave me in the cold." And then he unties himself and he just keeps rocking until he falls out and he goes flying down the hill and shit. So yeah, that's definitely my favorite scene.
Alrighty. How about you, Forrest? If you could take a favorite scene from this movie, what would it be?
The favorite scene. I think I have to agree with Mo and Jake on the horse scene. That was pretty well. That was pretty good.
Okay. What about you, Mo? If you could choose a favorite scene or scenes from this movie, what would it be?
Well, I think favorite visual would be there's a moment where like he's midway through the quest to find his son and he's like riding away from this big rock formation and it just shows the whole thing in like sort of landscape POV where you almost can't notice him on the horse like slumped over in the bottom left corner. I just love that scene. It reminds me of, like I said, a Frazetta painting or something. Favorite actual scenes, probably a tie between Zombie Grandpa waking up, the horse scene. But really, though, I think if I had to choose a favorite moment, it's that battle with his son where he's actually getting down and proper fucking some dudes up. And then he has that old double clothesline with that crow dude. And they like charge each other. You know, if you were to make like a modern trailer for this movie with just the action sequences, that would happen at like that, like dun, 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 dun. You know, they'd hit each other and it'd go silent for a minute and then the title would come up. Like, it's an epic moment, you know. by far the highlight of any fight choreography. I know some of you
Totally.
guys had some issues with it, but little moments like that made it all worth it. Or like his wife jerking that dude off of the horse and then getting a mild concussion and dying. But yeah, that was easily a highlight for sure. So yeah, those scenes, I guess.
Okay. What about you, Brandon? If you could take a favorite scene or scenes from this movie, what would it be?
I guess when he wakes up from being dead, maybe. Well, we're not 100%, but I guess that and the scene with him and the wolves facing off afterwards. There was something somewhat exciting about that.
Okay. What about you, Tammy? If you could take a favorite scene or scenes from this film, what would it be?
Well, I thought one of the favorite scenes was when Grandpa comes back and he walks in and everybody just looks at him. You know, that was like priceless, the look on everybody's face.
Like they didn't
And,
expect him to be alive.
No,
I'm not a ghost.
right.
I'm not dead
And-
yet.
I guess my favorite actor would actually have to be Grandpa. So
Okay.
He was pretty likable. He had like a good crustiness about him too that
I'd
only
have to
comes
say
with
my
age.
favorite character is the other son, the brother, only because
Yeah,
he wasn't raised as a Cheyenne. He wasn't raised with his father, but you could clearly tell he still had the same. He took after his father. Like he wouldn't.
he
kill
had more of a
women and
compassion and
Yeah.
sense of honor and
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
you know
the people
than
that raised
the
him.
people that he raised. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was probably the most interesting element of the film was that character if I had to choose. So I would fully agree there. Also, he looked badass.
Oh, you really
like,
did.
When you first see him
I was
come out
like-
of the woods
when
and he
he-
like looks at them and then just leaves, like his face paint's so fucking scary but epic looking. Like
When
And
he said
he
he was
does
a
have
Cheyenne,
kind of
I was
an
like,
epic
oh man, he's
speech.
gonna fuck some shit up now.
And he
Well, I
does
definitely-
kind of.
I definitely
have an-
liked looking at young Grandpa.
oh wow. He was chiseled, wasn't he, Tammy? I noticed
Yes.
as well. He's one of those dudes that's super handsome until he laughs and you see the gigantic gap in his teeth. We love you, Gene Dreamer.
But anyways, I guess I have several favorites in this. I do like the whole his romancing his love and the horse scene, and I do like when Grandpa wakes up and he just tumbles out of the rafters that he's in and fights the wolves and stumbles onto the bear cave and somewhat accidentally
He's not
kills
having
the
a good
bear.
day.
Yeah, that's
getting
not
lucky,
a good
right?
death day, and his whole mumblings about grandfather. Is this a joke? You know,
Grandfather, why do you do this to me? Grandfather, this is your joke.
just
Why can't I walk
his,
with the wind?
he's got a sense of humor about him. You know, I don't know if it's that old man humor or not, but I mean, even when he comes back to the tent, he's like, don't look at me. I was just called back, you know. There's just something nostalgic about this and almost spiritual in the way that this film was portrayed. I can look past the white people playing the Indians. Maybe not young Windwalker so much, but I do think that
He's the
Trevor
most
Howard
blatant.
does portray an old Indian very well.
Right. He does a good job. I mean, and he's also an old enough name that none of us give a fuck about him really, you know, so it's like he could just be some old Indian dude. But James Raymar in there, like I said, there's that second time that he like whoops and it was like, damn, they should have dialed that back a notch
Yeah.
with him being like such an obvious
To
white
me,
dude. You know,
I'm not as much as hateful of a role if
it's acting at the
as
end
long-
of the day. I mean,
as long as the actor portrays an indigenous person well,
respectfully,
can
and
pull
they
it off
do that in this movie,
and make
so
you
it's-
believe that he is who
I
he
didn't believe it for a
is
second.
acting.
He looked like he ran through like a Venice Beach spray tan booth.
Yeah,
but
that's what I thought too. It's like
uh,
he definitely looked like all bronze, just like all bronzed up.
like Sunbun's job was to spray that dude brown on set, and in a very politically incorrect way. I find that fucking hilarious. You know,
Tammy would have been happy to do that part with her hands.
yeah, you could have been the spray tan girl, Tammy. That would have been epic.
That would have been fun.
No, James Remar was looking good back then. I'd have been the
loincloth.
spray tan boy if they hired me to do it. I'd have sprayed that motherfucker brown every morning. And
Then he
enjoyed
just
it.
say, no, you have to remove that loincloth so I can make sure I spray everything.
Yeah, we can't have any fucking seams showing, you know. But no, it could have been much worse, as me and Jake pointed out. It's just one of those unfortunate signs of the time. I wouldn't say that it's really a detriment to the movie in anything other than just it's unfortunate that there's certain people that didn't get some of those opportunities back then. But now they're getting them, so that's a good thing. And when they inevitably tap this movie for obscure remake of the year, you know, we'll probably see that. The fact that it's based on a novel only increases its odds of that happening too. I wouldn't be surprised if in the next decade we see a Windwalker remake.
At least the choreography will be much better.
Yeah, it'll be more fake and fantastical, and you guys will be like, "Ooh, look at that Jet Li shit."
That's right.
Yeah.
But in any case,
I don't care if it's accurate
Overall,
or
though,
not.
great movie, Dave. I mean, thank you for recommending it because I did enjoy it. You know, it's got its issues, but it's certainly one. I could see what you're saying about the nostalgic thing to it. I'm almost nostalgic for it, and I didn't even watch it. So if I had seen this at like 10,
It's
that probably
definitely
became
I
one of
think
those
that's when
lazy
I-
Sunday
I think
movies.
that's
like
when
Jake
I
It's
saw it.
definitely one of those
mentioned.
family movies you watch, and you really don't want to watch, but everyone's watching it, and then you kind of get nostalgia for it because you used to watching it.
See, stuff like this or like Dances with
I-
Wolves
I
or
was
Clan of
not
the Cave
used
Bear was
to
always stuff
seeing,
that I would
like, stuff
watch
from the
like late at
Indians'
night.
point of view, you know. So
Well, we didn't
when
get
it-
much of it, man. I mean, arguably, I think the most famous example from our generation is Dances with Wolves, and even that they insert a mustachioed white man into the mix so that we have someone to latch on to. You know, in terms of native representation, I would say this movie is even more ambitious than Dances with Wolves was, which is something considering it probably came out like a decade later. You know.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, in any case, hopefully.
One point we got to touch on though is some of that language sounds like it might not be accurate. Like if we were to talk to actual Cheyenne linguists, I think they would be like, they tried. You know, some of those words sound made up though. You know,
Machiska. I am Cheyenne.
I have no clue. All I know is, again, I'm forced to read a movie.
yeah, you get over it eventually.
No,
We'll,
I
we'll
won't.
cure you of that.
No, I won't.
To me, I felt like the narration kind of helped guide the subtitles along.
It was definitely there for guys like Kroll that can't handle reading subtitles the entire time. they had the old dude get on there and explain the key bits of it in between like stuff, and it was fine. You know, it felt a little place though with being in English, and there was times where they tried to sort of, I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about too. There's a scene where he's on his deathbed and he's clearly talking in Cheyenne, but then it fades into English and it just is not a seamless transition, you know.
But in any case, hopefully y'all have enjoyed our discussion on this film. It was cool to be able to share this with the group. It is a favorite of mine, and it's not a normal I mean, my tastes are different. I know that. So that
Honestly, this might be the most normal movie you've ever recommended, though, dude. Like this is pretty,
Dude.
non-offensive sort of. It's everybody could enjoy it if you're a fan of Dances with Wolves, Last of the Mohicans, whatever that movie was with Tom Berenger, where he found all those Native Americans living in like a mountain range, that type of shit. Last of the Dog Soldiers, I think it was, or something like that. If you like all that type of shit, check this out.
Yeah, Last of the Mohicans is almost offensive.
Better movie though.
Leather Stocking Tales were the original American novels.
Jake laughed at the Tom Berenger thing. You ever see that movie, Jake? Last of the Dog Soldiers?
I have.
I have not.
It's based on a true story, dude. There's like this uncontacted tribe living in this valley or whatever. And I think in the movie they find them looking for escaped prisoners, which probably isn't true, but they needed to make it like interesting for the sake of the movie. Definitely check it out.
Cannibal Holocaust.
Yeah, then they eat Tom Berenger, and that's the movie. Exactly what Ian said.
In any case, hopefully you enjoyed our discussion on this film. Like, share, and subscribe, and hopefully you are all looking forward to the next discussion that we have for tonight, because that is what we have all been waiting for, correct?
Yeah, dude. And if you haven't gotten enough of our undead grandpa from this film, you can also see him in Star Trek's The Wrath of Khan. Give that a look.
But let us know down in the comments whether you liked this movie or saw it or something like that. So join us on our other channel as we have some more fun on my birthday picks. So everyone say, just meet us over there.
Good night.
Bring your lotion, your sugared donuts. It's gonna be a good time.
Yep.